Hey everyone, it's Alvaro Fuentes for the Stata YouTube channel, and today we're going to learn about the import FRED command for downloading time series from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. So let's get started. The Federal Reserve Economic Data, or FRED, is a repository that contains hundreds of thousands of economic and financial time series from the US and many other countries. The website for this repository is fred.stlouisfed.com, and it changes its look every once in a while. But the steps to connect from Stata have been the same for many years and will likely remain the same in the years to come. Step 1 is to create an account on the FRED website and to provide an email address for your account. Once you have an account, you can look in this user menu for an item called Application Programming Interface Keys, or API keys, and click on it. An API key is a kind of password that will let you access your FRED account from within Stata. This next page allows you to send a request for an API key and see a list of any keys you have obtained in the past. Clicking on Request API Key takes you to this page, where the website asks what you will be using the API key for. You can write something as simple as, I want to access the FRED repository from Stata. You can then agree to their terms of use, click on Request API Key to submit your request, and the system will send the 32-character alphanumeric key to the email address you provided. To access the repository from Stata, we go to File, Import, FRED. And the first time we do this, we will be prompted to enter the API key and ask whether it should be used for this session only or set permanently. Entering the key and clicking OK opens the dialog box for the import FRED command, where we can search for a specific time series or browse around to see what is available. Browsing by category, we can go, for example, into population, employment, and labor markets, income distribution, and then look through the time series that are listed under this category. By default, the series are sorted by how popular they are, which is this first column with the pound sign, but we can also read here their ID, which is a unique identifier for each time series available in the repository, their title, and the frequency at which the series was recorded, which could be monthly, quarterly, or annual, for example. It is also possible to filter this list by the characteristics of the series we're looking for, like their source, which is the agency that collected the data, whether the data are seasonally adjusted, which country or region the information is about, as well as the subtopic or concept the series pertains to, such as wealth, growth, or wages. If we select assets here as the concept and click on Add to Filters, we can browse through series related to assets. Then, sorting by title, we can scroll down the list to find two interesting time series: the share of total assets held by the top 0.1% of asset holders in the US, and the share of total assets held by the bottom 50%. I can then click on Add to place these items on the list of series I would like to import, and click Import. This opens a new dialog box with other settings for downloading the series, but for now we're just going to click Submit and come back to this dialog box in our next example. On the results window, we can see the command we could have typed to download these two series, which is simply import FRED followed by the IDs. Then, Stata lets us know both of these series have 143 observations, and that this is quarterly data collected from July 1st, 1989 through January 1st, 2025. We can also see on the variables window that two date variables have been created, a so-called observation date and a daily numeric date. If we look in the data editor, we can see these are simply a date variable in string format and a date variable in date format that is ready for Stata to use in time series analysis. However, the frequency of this date variable is always set to daily by default, because that's a good starting point to deal with series that have different frequencies. In this example, both of our series have a quarterly frequency, so we need to change that before we can get to work. To learn about the Stata functions that convert daily dates to other frequencies, you can type help datetime into the command window. Let's clear out this data and import a different pair of time series to talk about the options of the import FRED command. Instead of browsing by category, This time, I'll search for the keyword banana, which brings up a long list of series related to food and specifically fruit, like the US Producer Price Index for canned fruits and vegetables, and the wholesale price of bananas for New York City. For this example, I want to import the monthly series of the average price of orange juice in US cities. If we look at the description by clicking Describe, we can see this is data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. It is not seasonally adjusted. It has been recorded every month from January 1st, 1980 until June 1st, 2025, a longer description of the series, and the vintages that are available. A vintage is a version of the time series from a particular date, before it was updated with new information or new methodologies. Having access to different vintages makes it possible to use the same dataset that was used a long time ago in a study, to replicate that study, for example. Finally, the tool at the bottom lets us check if the description of the series has changed over the years. For example, if we check between January 1st, 2020 and January 1st, 2025, we can see that the title of the series before July 1st, 2021 used to be a little shorter, but nothing really important has changed, in the description at least. We'll go ahead and import this monthly orange juice series, as well as the quarterly global price of bananas, to illustrate how importing series with different frequencies is handled. The dialog box that pops up confirms the series we want to import, and the first option here is easy to understand. Stata is simply asking if we would like to import a subset of the time series, from some custom start date to some custom end date. To understand the aggregation option, let's first look at how Stata imports by default by clicking Submit. The orange juice series starts a decade earlier, in January 1980, so we have missing values for the banana series until its start date of January 1990. After that, notice how the quarterly banana series reports a price for January 1st, 1990, which corresponds to the first quarter of 1990, then has missing values for February and March, and then reports a price for April 1st, which corresponds to the second quarter of the year, and so on. The monthly orange juice series, on the other hand, reports a price for every month. And we have already mentioned that this date variable is neither monthly nor quarterly, but daily. So it's difficult to think of a situation where we would want to import the series like this. Clearing out this dataset again, we can obtain a more useful pair of series by aggregating both of them to a lower frequency. For example, we can ask Stata to give us the annual average price for both series. For the monthly orange juice series, each observation is now an average of 12 months for a particular year. And for the quarterly banana series, each observation is now the average of 4 quarters. All we have to do now is create a yearly time variable from our daily dates, and we're ready to start working with these series. The rest of the options in the import dialog box allow us to import a particular vintage, to import the series in long rather than wide format for panel data analysis, and to suppress the output of our import command. To learn about other options of the command and look at more examples, remember you can always type help import Fred into the command window and click on View Complete PDF Manual Entry. We hope this was helpful, and thanks for stopping by.